Philadelphia Eagles at the Minnesota Vikings. Eagles coming off their 2 straight losses, but still favored by 2.5 in Minnesota. Over under 43.5 per FanDuel. Eagles coming off their mini bye Thursday night game against the Giants. Vikings coming off of their bye after playing across the pond for back-to-back weeks.
Yeah. Interesting game. Philadelphia needs to sort of bounce back from what happened to them. Minnesota have to figure out who the quarterback is. And Kevin O'Connell's not loving that, I think. I don't think he's loving a few parts of it. Number one, I don't think he's loving that he's in this situation. And number two, he's certainly not loving that people want to know what the answer is consistently. He got as testy as I've seen him at a press conference when he was asked again who his starting quarterback is likely to be this week.
He got asked on Wednesday, and he said, same as Monday, basically.
Yeah. Which is, I don't know, basically. From the sounds of it, I think I'm reading it as it's going to be Carson Wentz this week, and for who knows how much longer. But that's the situation they're in. Like, what we saw from J.J. McCarthy was bad enough that they are in no rush to put him back out on the field if they have a chance of doing otherwise. And Wentz is hurt as well, so it's not as easy as all that. But O'Connell's kind of been at pains to stress that it's his non-throwing shoulder that he's hurt, you know?
Wentz?
Yeah.
He gets hurt a lot.
Yes.
I've said a million times, QB injuries are more playing style than anything. I think there's probably something to Josh Allen. Is he built to take hits? Yes, but so was Cam Newton. And Cam Newton had a lot of nagging injuries through the years, and eventually that ended his career. Big Ben took a lot of hits. So on one hand, you could say, these guys are equipped to take a lot of hits, and then they've mostly endured, but they also were banged up quite a bit. And then you have someone like Wentz or Anthony Richardson who are similarly sized, and it's like if they take more than 3 big hits in a game, it's like one of them's going to get you. And so Wentz has always been like that. And he holds the ball, the Pittsburgh game where he got sacked a bunch. Like, he has those games where he holds the ball a lot and takes a lot of hits.
It's really unfortunate because his sort of tool set is what should allow you to play like Josh Allen, and he just can't because he's not made of whatever adamantium that Josh Allen is made out of. Like Carson Wentz is made out of something far more brittle, and when he takes a hit, it tends to hurt him. And unfortunately, that's been the case for him throughout his entire career. You know, even in his best season, remember, he gets a sort of freak injury trying to launch himself over the goal line, and suddenly that opens the door for the Nick Foles era. And Nick Foles is the guy who's the hero in Philadelphia. And Carson Wentz ends up starting to be bounced around the NFL, ends up now as this sort of career backup who's getting like one last chance to win a starting job. And even then, like 5 minutes into it, you get hurt. And it's really unfortunate because I don't think you can control. Obviously, you can control what the hits you take or not, right? But you can't control whether you've got a body that's going to survive like Josh Allen or whether you've got a body like Carson Wentz that's built out of Chad Pennington's knees. There's just no way. And so, unfortunately, Carson Wentz is constructed out of a substance that just does not allow him to play the way that his size should dictate he wants to play.
Obviously, big game for both sides. Do you think – we never really talked about it from this angle, but Minnesota moving on from Sam Darnold this offseason, we didn't really bat an eye at that. There was a point where last year, very late, heading into Week 18 – we said, hey, they have a decision to make. Darnold's playing this well. Like, pay him you just pay him $30 million and give up on your first-round draft pick? Not the worst idea in the world if you knew you were going to get good Sam Darnold.
We are going to have such a revisionist history on this both sides of this, the Seattle decision and the Minnesota decision.
If Darnold keeps it up,
yes.
Right? I will pose this question, though. Is there a chance – you know how, like, the head coach tends to lean toward the sure thing.
Right.
The head coach tends to lean toward – in the veteran. Right? The head coach doesn't like to play the mystery box game. The head coach doesn't normally care about the salary cap as much. The GM does, right? The GM cares about, I can have J.J. McCarthy on the cheap, but also maybe 2 or 3 other players. Or I could have one Sam Darnold. Like, that's the debate that was happening. Do you think there was a question in Kevin O'Connell's mind where he's like, you know what? I know what I have in Sam Darnold. We just had a lot of success with him. I'd rather keep him. Do you think there may have been,
No, because
some
I don't
push-pull in
think
there.
I don't think anybody had that opinion. I don't think anybody thought I know what I have in Sam Darnold after the way the season ended. I think if the season had ended 2 weeks before, everybody's decision was different. I think they would have kept Sam Darnold if the season had ended in week 16, and that was the last we saw of Sam
Had
Darnold.
the playoffs started that day.
Had the play, or simply, if Darnold had gotten hurt in that game and he never had the last two performances, and the last thing they saw was still like all pro caliber Sam Darnold, and that was the end of their season, I think everybody in that building would have been of the opinion we keep him and we re-up him to whatever contract we can get him for, and that's how we go forward. Coaches, GM, everybody. And then because the last 2 weeks happened, I think that changed their ultimate decision, and I suspect it. At the very minimum, I think everybody in that building was like, I don't know who he is anymore, right? Maybe there were people that were more definitely get rid of him than others, but I don't think anybody would have been banging the table being like, we 100% have to bring this guy back based off what we just saw. Because everything you just saw got completely undermined by the final 2 weeks of the season, and nobody had any freaking idea what they were looking at this point. Now it's easy to look back and go, well, you should have just written that off as two random games that could happen to anybody. And, of course you sign him to the contract. But at the time, you've got this first-round rookie who theoretically was supposed to start that year. Like, remember that. Darnold, it's not like Darnold was kind of signed as a bridge, but by the point McCarthy got hurt, people were expecting him to have won the starting job based off the preseason and training camp performance, right? So theoretically, you're going back to the guy that was supposed to have the starting job anyway. So you should have had some degree of confidence that he was going to be the guy, albeit on a really small sample size. I think to a degree, they've been very unlucky. Like they stumbled into a Sam Darnold thing. They thought they had a quarterback, and then 2 weeks completely undermined all of that confidence. They thought they had a quarterback in J.J. McCarthy, and then 2 weeks undermined all of that confidence. And now you're sort of stuck in this weird limbo world where can you trust going back to McCarthy based off what you saw? Can you trust Carson Wentz to be anything? And oh, by the way, your offensive line has been banged up all throughout this season. You've only just gotten Jordan Addison back. Like, there's all kinds of confounding variables out there for them.
Hey guys, real quick, only 40% of our viewers are actually subscribed, so let's change that. Hit that subscribe button, and now let's get back to the action. There are, and I think the tricky part for Minnesota is, yeah, I think J.J. McCarthy is the future there, but you're balancing that against you have a good team, even with some offensive line injuries and issues. You have a good team this year, and you can decide Carson Wentz is the better option for the team for this year, and say we'll continue to develop JJ and hopefully he's ready for next year, or maybe whenever he's fully healthy, he's the guy. But yeah, it was the first time. You're right. Kevin O'Connell was a little perturbed by the question.
He also just might not be the guy, JJ McCarthy, right? And see, this is the thing.
Of course, he might not. But like, let's. We've seen 8 quarters of football from him. One was good.
Right. The missing information.
It's early. It's very early.
The missing piece of information here from the outside is we don't really know what they thought of McCarthy all the way along, right? We are dealing with extremely small pieces of information, whether it's from their point of view or ours, right? Our point of view, it's exceptionally small. We had he was a weird quarterback in college because he wasn't leaned on the way these other guys were within this Harbaugh offense. So already you're dealing with a kind of incomplete picture. Then you get like one preseason and training camp where he's good in training camp, has command of the offense, looked good in preseason, and then hurt his knee, and we never saw him again. And then you have another one of those where, again, theoretically it was good in training camp, preseason, and then a few quarters of football where he looked largely terrible in a bad situation because the offensive line's banged up, and that's it. That's all we know. Internally, we don't know if they loved J.J. McCarthy at draft time or if he was simply the quarterback that ended up being available to them, right? Maybe they liked Michael Penix more. Maybe they loved the top 3 guys way more than J.J. McCarthy, but they knew realistically there was never a shot of those guys. Like, we don't know what that is, right? We also don't know how much they really loved him in the training camp, in the preseason stuff, and how, what the priors were. Because if they really had confidence and loved the guy as a draft prospect and then loved what they saw from him throughout practice and stuff, well, then you've got a little bit of credit in the bank where you can say, okay, we still think he's the guy, and a few rough quarters isn't going to change that, and we want to persist with him. And the question just becomes, what's the best way of developing him, right? if they never really loved him to begin with, and he was just the guy that they got available, and then obviously publicly from that point you say, well, he was our guy all along, right? You're not going to say, look, I'm going to level with you guys. We wanted Michael Penix, and then Atlanta traded up ahead of him, so we just got this guy, and we're going to try and make it work, right? Clearly so you can't trust what they're saying out loud. But if that was the reality, and he was never really their guy, and he was just the one they had to try and make it work with, well then it doesn't take that much for you to walk away from those priors and go, maybe we just don't have a guy.
And then it makes you think maybe we should just kept Sam Darnold. I'm just wondering if that's going through their head.
Yeah, I mean,
it's good history. It's good history there. You're right. We don't know what their thoughts are.
You also have to bear in mind the costs associated with that. Like, that's the other part that nobody's ever going to talk about is the Vikings effectively had a choice between, do we let Sam Darnold walk and overhaul the offensive line with all that free money, or do we keep Sam Darnold, who just got murdered behind a terrible offensive line, and not really have a huge amount of cash to fix it?
I'll say it again. I feel like I've seen more think pieces on how the Vikings got their guy and the Broncos always knew they had their guy when they chose QBs 5 and 6.
And maybe those are all accurate.
And maybe they are. But I feel like it's a little disingenuous because, I mean, if the Vikings had Drake May on the board, right. I don't think they're taking J.J. McCarthy. Yeah. If Drake May is on the board for the Broncos, I don't think they're taking Bo Nix just because he had a tennis ball in his backpack and is a football guy.
I mean, look, there are literal teams of paid professionals whose job is PR within each one of these franchises, right? So you have to, at the very minimum, be aware of the kind of manpower dedicated to creating the best spin possible on all of these situations. So when articles come out after the fact with, internal sources about this is what they felt, I mean, there's a pretty healthy chance somebody's working to make that look good.
Bottom line here, it's way too early to really know anything about J.J. McCarthy, and a good point in the chat. The Falcons are really good. That's the defense that made J.J. look awful in that Sunday night game earlier in the year.
When his offensive line was in bits. And
offensive line issues, and we just saw the Falcons give the Bills some problems in prime time. They are one of the more difficult defenses to face this year, which has not been the case in Atlanta previously. So, a lot of stuff on J.J. and Wentz, but a fascinating matchup with Flores every week, Flores defense against whoever he's going up against. It happens to be the Eagles this week. And the Eagles, it's a pivotal time of the season for Philadelphia. These next few weeks. Might not just be this week, but these next few weeks. Are you going the 2023 route? Are you going 24?
Right.
Which way are you going? Or is it somewhere in between? Are you just a pretty good team that maybe doesn't have Super Bowl in them this year?
Yeah.
I would say it is no time to panic, because who are the expected powerhouses in the NFL? The Eagles, the Ravens, the Lions, the Bills have all shown signs of weakness this year, maybe more than they have. But you don't trust just because the Colts are 5-1 or the Bucs are 5-1. You're not like, well, they're the new powerhouses. They have issues of their own. So it's open for the Chiefs are 3-3. They might be trending in the right direction, but it's still wide open for everybody, including the Eagles. They just have to figure things out offensively, have some better balance. In balance, I mean throwing deep, throwing intermediate, throwing short, and getting the run game going. Philadelphia needs all of those components to start working together.
Yeah, the panic for Philadelphia is not, losing ground relative to the NFC or not being in position. It's more, we've seen this go spiraling out of control before, and could that happen again? That's the fear if you're Philadelphia. I think this game is really interesting on that side of the ball the most. Philadelphia's offense against the Flores defense for a couple of reasons. You look at this and you're like, well, there's a huge advantage to Minnesota because Flores' defense is fantastic. It's a nightmare to deal with. I think the Philadelphia offense, though, is unusually well suited to actually play against it for a couple of reasons. Number one, the weakness of this Flores defense so far has been the run game. And in particular, so number one, they're not from a personnel standpoint, they're designed not to be great against the run. They've got a lot of pass rushing specialists, and they don't, they specifically eschewed defensive tackle run stuffers in favor of these pass rushing guys. So that's one thing. It's like a deliberate choice. But also, they've been weirdly gap unsound for a defense that theoretically should just be attacking every gap anyway. And the Eagles have Saquon Barkley. And okay, they haven't got him going this year, but Saquon is almost uniquely qualified to, oh, look, there's a gap of daylight because they haven't been in the right gap. Like, blip, one jump to his left and he's gone.
This
right?
could be the week.
Bijan is the other guy that's, there's a couple of guys that are capable of that. Now, the Falcons ran all over this Vikings defense. So I think this could be a week where Saquon does go off for a couple of those big runs that haven't been there this year. The other thing is, as much as this defensive scheme in the pass game is confusing as hell, difficult to diagnose, really confusing, the Eagles' offense is so kind of rudimentary that it's an awful lot of like, A.J. Brown's on the outside, just throw it at him. Like, it's for all the smoke and mirrors in this Flores defense, every now and again, you're just going to have A.J. Brown one-on-one with Jeffrey Okudah, right? And if you just decided this is the ISO route I'm going to throw pre-snap, there's a pretty healthy chance that works out well for you. So the Eagles' offense might actually have a surprising amount of success simply by saying, we like our athletes here. We're just going to throw the ball come what may. And as long as they haven't like sunk a linebacker under that pass, there's a pretty good chance it works.
9 straight weeks of Jeffrey Okudah catching strays from you on the
I mean,
outside.
look, Jeffrey Okudah didn't turn into a good football player just because he went to the Minnesota Vikings defense. He's not a particularly good football player. He's not playing particularly well. He's just in a defense that's hiding the fact that he's Jeffrey Okudah.
Isaiah Rodgers did, though.
Yeah, he's playing well. I mean, look, he's playing very well.
Hey, fun matchup. I think it's a big storyline one as well between the quarterback stuff we've discussed with Minnesota and this pivot point for Philadelphia. And again, another game where both pass rushes. I think Minnesota's their edge rushers against the Eagles tackles, and then on the other side, the Eagles going up against the beat up Minnesota offensive line. It's a good matchup, both sides of the ball. Eagles by 2.5 here in Minnesota. Where are you going to go?
I'm going with the Eagles. I've talked myself into their offense will have success this week.
You just talked me into it as well. Where'd Harry's picks go? Sorry. I forgot my iPad where all of his picks are housed.
Yeah.
So I had to have him send some screenshots. He's taking Philly as well. All three of us will take Philly in this one.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video.
Check the Mic is live every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, so be sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a thing.
And the all-knowing algorithm is convinced you'll also like these videos, and who are we to argue?